Hey guys, it's Maddie and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about not giving a fuck, specifically the subtle art of not giving a fuck. I recently listened to the audiobook by Mark Manson is his name. He actually narrates the audiobook and I took a few notes about it and wanted to share some of the things that really stuck out to me. So I got a bubbly. When I'm filming this, today is Sunday and I'm trying not to drink caffeine on Sundays, so I've cracked a bubbly instead of an energy drink. In case you were curious, because I'm sure you were wondering. Anyways, I think I have like 8 takeaways, 8 lessons I learned. So let's just get right into it. Number 1, not giving a fuck doesn't mean being indifferent and not caring and letting things pass you by. It means becoming comfortable with the differences and accepting them for what they are. It allows you to be willing to be labeled as an outcast or different or maybe strange or weird. It's what makes us who we are, and in those places of being different or weird or an outcast, that's where you're gonna find your people that you really resonate with and that you find have similar values to you, because you're not trying to like keep up with those other people who aren't aligned with what you want. The second is that you must give a fuck about something other than your adversities and the struggles that you go through. And to not become obsessed with your difficulties in life, because then that leads to self-pity, and that's just not a good place to be in. Like, this is kind of a harsh reality, but no one wants to be around someone who just constantly feels bad for themselves and who is wallowing in that self-pity. It's just a downer for everyone. The third is you are always choosing to give a fuck about something. So reserve your fucks for things that actually matter to you, are important in your life. For me personally, sports, I don't really care a lot about sports. I enjoy them in small quantities and in certain situations, but my boyfriend, he loves sports. He gives a fuck about all of the sports. Football, baseball, basketball, hockey, all of the sports. He cares about that and he keeps up with the stats. But I don't. I give a fuck about reading, about my books, so I keep up with that. So I'm not going to try to take up a lot of mental capacity in my head for hockey stats when I just don't give a fuck about it. And I don't feel bad for having different interests than other people. Like, even really important people in my life, we give a fuck about different things, and that is okay. I'm not gonna give up my love and passion for books just because an important person in my life has different loves and different interests. We can exist together and appreciate each other's interests without having to feel like we need to change ourselves to also match that. So that being said, if you're unhappy with a certain situation in your life or how things are going, change what you give a fuck about. No one is sitting here dictating what you have to care about, what you have to enjoy, what you need to be interested in. Things can change. Life changes. There are cycles we go through in life, and it's okay for things to change. And really lean into that. If something isn't feeling right, or if the vibes aren't right, change it. You don't have to stay the same person as you were a year ago. Like, things are always moving along, so don't be afraid to also change what you're interested in. Number 4 is we all suffer because of our opportunities. There is this infamous quote, more money, more problems. I don't know how accurate that is because I have never come into a significant amount of money unexpectedly. But if you have a lot of opportunities, that can kind of influence what you give a fuck about and cause more stress on your life because you have more decisions to make. And suffering is unavoidable. We're all gonna go through it at some point. Yes, not all suffering is equal or the same and can be compared, but we're all gonna experience it in some sort of capacity. Number 5, the solution to one problem is the creation of the next. Kind of like relating to the last point, we're all gonna suffer. We're gonna have problems constantly come up in our lives. No matter what it is. Like, for example, for me, I was very unhappy at my one job and that was causing a lot of problems in my life, but I quit that job and now, not that I have money problems, but I don't have that additional income source. So now I have to be more conscious of my spending. So I solved a happiness problem, but that created a financial problem. And when you have no real problems in your life, I use that term pretty loosely because only you can determine what a real problem for you is. But when you don't have those, your mind is very creative and it will invent problems for you. And that could be out of thin air. So for me, when my life is boring, or if I've noticed that I've been isolating and by myself quite a bit, when I go out and I am social, the next day I will like spiral with a bunch of like self-doubt and thinking things are worse and catastrophizing, but that's because I'm not experiencing any real problems. So any little blip in my life, my mind will attach itself to, and then I will create problems out of nothing from there and just spiral and think that I am the cause of all bad things in the world, essentially. But if I'm not engaged enough, like mentally, or if I'm not working on things, or if things are a bit of a lull, then that's when my mind really takes things and runs for the hill with it. Number 6 is that we are often dissatisfied but what we have and only satisfied with things we don't have. So by that, I mean, we think if we buy that next product or achieve that next goal, that next thing is going to solve all of our problems. But what we currently have is the root of why we are in the place that we're at. So for example, if you want to lose weight and you're dissatisfied with your body, with how it looks, with the lack of muscle, with the collection of fat, wherever it may be, the only thing that is going to satisfy you is losing the weight, gaining that muscle mass, becoming more fit. As we learned from point number 5, the solution of one problem is the creation of the next. So you may achieve that goal of losing that weight, gaining that muscle mass, but you're gonna have to be uncomfortable to achieve those goals. So you may be dissatisfied with having to cut back in food or having to exercise more. I hope that made sense. I think it does, but I hope that was a good analogy. Or another one, say you're dissatisfied with your acne, like I can be quite often. The only thing that I think is going to satisfy me is buying those new skincare products, to buying that serum or those acne patches. But in actuality, I don't know if it'll work, but I get the satisfaction of buying that product, and I place very high hopes on that product to bring me the happiness, the satisfaction that I think it will. So that product or that goal, that is a lot of pressure to put on it to uphold your happiness. Number 7, I'm going to read this word for word because I don't know how else to say it without exactly how Mark Manson said it. People who are terrified of what others think of them are actually terrified of all the shitty things they think about themselves being reflected back at them. So essentially that is projecting your feelings onto other people. And I experience this a lot out in social settings. I think people are looking at me the way I look at myself, and I blame them and kind of make up their mind for them. So that being said, I am really insecure that people think I am annoying, that I overshare, that I talk too much, and that I just talk nonsense, essentially. That is just what I think of myself, but when I go out to a social situation, I think other people think that of me, even though I have no proof to back that up. Like, no one has ever once told me that, but how I feel about myself, I think other people feel the same way towards me. And I just give too much of a fuck about what other people think, even though that's not true. Like, nothing has solidified that fact. So I am just going off of how I feel towards myself. I just care way too much about what those people think about me, even though their actions have always like been very supportive and encouraging, and everyone seems excited to talk to me. So then I just get caught up in my own head. And that's one place I want to steer away from, giving a fuck about what people think of me, to giving a fuck about how I enjoy my experience interacting with them and being at that social event. Like, am I having a good time? Am I happy? Am I enjoying myself? Because that is worth just as much as the next person having a good time. So I just want to care more about me and my experience, and not in a selfish way, in a equal value way. And number 8, you are not that special. We all struggle and we all give way too many fucks. And that is enough said, I think. I think that just kind of sums up everything. You don't know what other people are going through. You don't know how they see themselves. They don't know how they see the world, how they perceive things. Perception is a huge thing. Like, no two people have the same perception or the same way of thinking. I think that's important to remember. Anyways, those are my lessons that I took away from this book. I hope you enjoyed listening to me rant on about giving a fuck and all of the swearing in this video. I don't think I've said the word fuck this many times. I highly recommend you read the book or listen to it. I would love to go back and reread it because I'm sure there are so many things I missed or just didn't hit home as much as they would have if I read the book compared to listening to the audio version of it. Because when I'm driving, that's when I listen to my audiobooks, but I also need to pay attention to the road. That is very important. But yeah, it was a really good book and it was so short to listen to. I think it was like 5 hours. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.